Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the ships of Naval Action. Today we're taking a look at another third-rate ship of the line, a sister class to a ship I believe we have already covered. This is the Redoutable, the sister ship of the Implacable. So just like the Implacable, the Redoutable is a Tamaraire class ship of the line, and just like the Tamaraire, she would end up captured by the British. However, they would have a certainly different service life. We will get to that, however, later when we start covering the Battle of Trafalgar. So, the Redoutable. She was laid down in Brest on January 1790 and launched as Suffren on the 31st of May 1791. Suffren was attached to the Brest fleet under Vice Admiral de Grimaud, which was later replaced by Modard de Gaz, and under Captain Obed she departed Brest in 1793 for a cruise to Quiberon. And in September, they kind of revolted. The fleet revolted in the Quiberon mutinies. And in retaliation, Suffren was renamed the Redoutable on 20th of May 1794. In December of 1794, the Redoutable would take part of the Croisade du Grand Divier under Captain Moncosu to try and capitalize on the glorious June battle. I believe it was the glorious 1st of June. And she broke her cables upon departure and managed to reach open sea. However, she had to return to Brest, and she didn't really achieve anything during this expedition. The following year, she would take the part of Battle of Gois on the 23rd of June 1795, where her poor sailing properties meant that she had to be taken in tow by the Virginie. Following the battle, she would sail to Port Louis near Lorient, and in December 1796, Redoutable took part in the Expedition de Lende, the Irish expedition, which didn't really go well. Yeah. That was essentially her service in the Brest squadron. In March 1802, she would form the flagship of a squadron of 2 ships of the line and 4 frigates under Admiral Bouvet, sent to reinforce Guadeloupe and Saint-Dominique in 1803. Not much would happen in Saint-Dominique, however, a couple of years later, so she sailed there in 1803. A couple of years later, 1805, the 21st of October, the famous or infamous Battle of Trafalgar. So the Redoutable was commanded by Captain Lucas with Lieutenant Dupotet as first officer. And Redoutable was the third ship behind the flagship Bucentaure in the French line. I have a video on the Bucentaure as well. She was behind Neptune and San Leandro, so she was behind one French and one Spanish ship. The Neptune and San Leandro dropped behind Bucentaure, exposing her stern, and Redoutable would quickly rush over to prevent a certain HMS Victory, video still to come, from cutting the French-Spanish line of battle. Redoutable would get so close to the Bucentaure that the bowsprit was almost touching, but not quite. And Redoutable would fire on Victory's rigging for 10 minutes trying to disable her, as was typical French tactics at the time. You aim for the rigging, disable them, which is different from the British and the Dutch tactics, which were to shoot the hull. So anyway, for 10 minutes the Bucentaure as well for that matter, but the Redoutable would try to disable the Victory. However, it didn't work. The Victory would sail in, and the Redoutable would run afoul of her, and a furious 15-minute musket duel erupted between the two ships. However, the crew of Redoutable had been specifically trained for this scenario, and it was wreaking havoc on the Victory. And this is where Lord Nelson would meet his fate, and he would get shot and die. And Captain Lucas would later report this about the scenario. A violent small arms exchange ensued. Our fire became so superior that within 15 minutes we had silenced that of Victory. Her castles were covered with dead and wounded, and Admiral Nelson was killed by our gunfire. Almost at once, the castle of the enemy ships were evacuated, and Victory completely ceased fighting us. But boarding her provided difficult because of her elevated third battery. I ordered the rigging of the Great Yard to be cut, and that it be carried to serve as a bridge. So, elevated third battery, basically referencing that Victory was first rate ship of the line, much taller ship because she had a third gun deck, unlike the Redoutable, which was a 74-gun third rate. During this time, there was also another ship that would prove to be difficult for the Redoutable, and that was HMS Tamaraire, which has no relation to the French ship class Tamaraire, because Tamaraire was a 98-gun ship of the line of the British Navy. And she had come to rescue Victory from the Redoutable and fired on the French crew at point-blank range, and 200 men, including Lucas, would be killed or wounded. They kept on fighting, and Redoutable was putting up a fierce battle. HMS Tonnant would join the battle, which was also a former French ship, which quite a few of them in here, but of course Tamaraire isn't one of them. Implacable was also in this battle. I forgot to mention that. Implacable was also at the Battle of Trafalgar. However, Redoutable and Implacable would not meet each other in battle. The Implacable was sailing for the British, being captured earlier in the year. I have a video on it, recommend looking at it. And Redoutable is sailing for the French. At 1:55 PM, however, Redoutable had only 99 men still fit to fight. That's out of a crew of 643. So there's 300 dead and 222 severely wounded. The Foucault attempted to come to her aid, but it didn't work. And essentially, Lucas, about half an hour later, 2:30, would strike his colors. The Redoutable was very close in sinking. She was severely damaged, and like a lot of ships, the day after, in the storm of October 22nd, just like the Nuestra Señora de la Santísima Trinidad, would end up foundering. So, that is that for Redoutable in history. Now, in naval action, what is the Redoutable? Well, first of all, she is a DLC ship. The only way to get her is by buying her on Steam. So that brings a big disadvantage. She is not a cheap ship. If she's not on sale, and I should have looked this up earlier, so I am literally looking that up right now. Pre-sale at the time of writing, it's 42 euros for the Redoutable. Convert that to your local currency, which is quite expensive. Especially when you consider the fact that the Implacable, her sister ship, is also present in the game. And the Implacable is, honestly, I would argue, a better ship in basically every way. So, the Redoutable, I'm comparing her directly because they're sister ships and it's easy to do. So the Redoutable, she has 30 36-pounder guns, 30 24-pounder guns, and 22 9-pound guns, which makes her not... She is a solidly armed third rate. She is among the heavier armed third rates in the game. Don't get me wrong. Not as hard as, say, the Admiral de Ruyter, but for a 74 gunner, she is quite heavily armed. However, compared to the Implacable has 12-pounders on her weather deck, and also has on her quarter deck a couple more 12-pounders. So that's a disadvantage to the Redoutable. The Redoutable, however, is decently more agile, has the same amount of crew. So why would you get the Redoutable? Well, as someone that got the Redoutable just to do this review, you don't just get the Implacable. The Implacable is a quote-unquote free-to-play ship. You can buy her at auction or whatever, unlike the Redoutable. And she is better, basically entirely better, except for a bit worse sailing handling. But the difference in sailing handle is not significant enough for it to really matter. So just get the Implacable. It'll be a better experience for less money. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I do hope you all enjoyed this quick look at the Redoutable. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe and all of that. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!